The GHA purchases a second CT scanner to strengthen trauma procedures. The Health Authority also expands telesurgery to include gynecology and bowel surgery. There's no increased risk of migrants attempting to enter Gibraltar by land, the government says. And all eyes will be on the Bay of Gibraltar at sunset tomorrow for the partial solar eclipse. A very good evening. The GHA has purchased a second CT scanner and says it has strengthened trauma procedures following the death of a 55-year-old man in 2021. The GHA later accepted partial liability for his death following a civil claim. The Health Authority says the new scanner should be operational within the next 12 months, while contingency arrangements are in place with a local imaging provider if its existing scanner is unavailable.
The 55-year-old died 2 days after being seriously injured in a road traffic collision on Queensway Road in April 2021. The coroner concluded that his death was a direct result of injuries sustained in the collision, with a delay in recognising internal bleeding contributing to his death. 3 recommendations were subsequently made to the GHA. These included regular and thorough testing of protocols likely to be used in critical situations, ensuring records are kept confirming staff have read and understood important protocols, and establishing procedures for when essential equipment, such as a CT scanner, is not functioning. In response to GBC questions, the GHA said it had carefully considered the recommendations, with some measures already in place before the inquest and others substantially strengthened. It said staff preparedness is tested through training exercises, clinical case reviews and practical training. The European Trauma Course has also been introduced. Clinical staff receive training on procedures as part of their induction and can access clinical guidelines and protocols digitally while treating patients. The GHA also has an agreement with a local provider to ensure CT scans remain available if its own scanner is out of service. A second CT scanner has also been purchased and is expected to become operational within the next 12 months. The GHA says clear procedures are in place to ensure senior doctors are involved quickly in urgent or complex cases. Radiologists are now also required to discuss and follow up scan results directly with the responsible consultant. It says the effectiveness of these measures is monitored through incident reports, audits, case reviews and patient outcomes. The GHA says patient safety remains its highest priority and extended its condolences to the man's family.
There are plans to expand the range of fields for telesurgery in Gibraltar to include gynecology and bowel surgery. 3 prostate removal operations have been conducted remotely so far using the Robotic surgery suite, with a 4th scheduled for next month. These have been carried out by Professor Prokar Dasgupta of the London Clinic's Robotics Centre of Excellence. Professor Dasgupta delivered a talk at St Bernard's Hospital on the future of healthcare and artificial intelligence. Cristina Cortes asked him about the landmark first remote operation on the Rock. A reminder, this interview has some images of a graphic nature.
Absolutely fascinating. That was a piece of history which a team here in Gibraltar and a team at the London Clinic achieved. And because today we have the technology to deliver such care to patients, and we have the telecommunications links, because mind you, London Clinic is 2,400 kilometers away from St Bernard's Hospital. But the technology is such that you feel you're only 60 milliseconds away. So it feels like you're in the same room as you would be if the patient was in London. Fascinating way of humanitizing surgery today and making this available to the patients in Gibraltar.
So the technology allows precision beyond what perhaps human hands can do, but do you also lack the immediacy of being in here in person? What are the pros and cons of this kind of surgery for you? Or is it all pros?
I think it's mainly pros. The cons are what happens if the technology fails. Now, that hasn't happened as yet, but could potentially happen. The way we mitigated it is sent a team from the London clinic, my assistant, who came over here, so that if, God forbid, something happened, then there were people from my team here who could complete the operation. But otherwise, it is like being in the same room as the patient. Distance is not an issue because the robotic technology has tiny little wrists. It has 3D HD vision, which is magnified many times, and the communication between the vision and the wrists is ultra fine and ultra sensitive. So you can communicate with the vision and with the wrists from a distance and translate those movements inside the patient. So a much finer and much more precise operation, less blood loss, less pain for the patient, shorter hospital stay, and quicker recovery.
And how many of this type of surgery has been carried out so far, and what are the plans for more of these surgeries in future? Is there plans to expand the scope of what can be offered?
Yes, indeed. We have done 3 of these procedures now between the London Clinic and St. Bernard's in Gibraltar. They were all robotic radical prostatectomies. Let me make that simple. These patients had prostate cancer, which was within the prostate gland, hadn't spread anywhere. So we cured these men by removing their prostates by keyhole surgery through 6 small holes in their tummies. The plan now is to do another operation, again a robotic radical prostatectomy, in September. This will be transmitted live to a European Congress of thousands of people who will be attending and learning from the experience. And then there are plans to expand this into gynecology, so for women, and also into bowel surgery. So I think this will be good for Gibraltar patients. They don't travel, their families don't travel, and guess what? We save the environment because we reduce the carbon footprint.
And you mentioned that this is being used as a teaching opportunity as well. So what does this mean for the field of urology, a field of surgery more generally, and how is it sort of taking off?
So one of the issues as surgery becomes more AI-driven, more technology-driven, is the problem with teaching this to other surgeons. People go through training programs, what we call curricula, to learn in a structured fashion. And with telesurgery, today comes telementoring. So the surgeon in Gibraltar, for example, no longer has to travel at vast expense to another part of the world just to learn an operation. We would be able to mentor them across distances, so an expert surgeon can mentor a less experienced surgeon to perform that operation safely and do so to a point where they become competent and do so for their patients. So I think this has vast potential. This has already been done elsewhere where an expert has mentored a more junior surgeon, and it has worked very well for patients. So patient safety is the key to all this, and I think with telesurgery, that is what we are bringing to patients.
And we'll bring you more from that interview with Professor Prokar Dasgupta on the future of AI in healthcare in tomorrow's bulletin. Well, moving on to other news, the government does not consider there to be any increased risk of migrants attempting to enter Gibraltar by land, although it says it continues to monitor migration patterns in the area. This is in response to GBC questions relating to a GB News interview with Baron John Redwood, in which it was claimed that Gibraltar faces the risk of an African invasion. In the interview, the Tory peer expressed concern that new arrangements under the treaty could lead to immigrants arriving in Gibraltar and potentially applying for asylum in the UK.
In answer to GBC questions on what arrangements are in place under the treaty for dealing with asylum seekers and how joint naval patrols would deal with any migrants encountered, Number 6 limited itself to saying both these situations are provided for in current legislation. The question of immigration has not been a concern for Gibraltar in recent years. Since January 2016, Gibraltar has processed a total of 51 asylum applications, with 24 of these originating from Morocco. Baron John Redwood has suggested illegal immigrants might take advantage of what he called Spain's extremely weak migration policy. In his interview with GB News, he said the British government needed to provide assurances that illegal migrants coming into Gibraltar would not be eligible to live in Gibraltar or to go on to the United Kingdom. Baron Redwood made claims about Spain's recent amnesty for illegal migrants, incorrectly asserting they had been granted the right to live anywhere else in the European Union. The Spanish program provides eligible immigrants a one-year temporary residence permit exclusively for Spain, which does not allow them to reside or work in any other country.
A man convicted of 13 sexual offences has been refused permission to appeal his 7-year prison sentence. Zachariah Larage was handed the sentence in May 2025 after being convicted of assaulting 2 girls who were aged 10 and 13 when the abuse began. He was also made subject to a 10-year sexual offences prevention order, placing restrictions on his behaviour in order to prevent future offences. His application for permission to appeal that order has also been refused.
Zachariah Larage was convicted of sexual offences involving 2 girls, referred to in court as Miss X and Miss Y. The offences against Miss X included kissing and sexually touching her, while those involving Miss Y included entering a room where she was sleeping and touching her breasts. Larage was sentenced to 7 years in prison, 5.5 years for the lead offence involving Miss X, with other sentences running concurrently, and a separate 18-month sentence involving Miss Y running consecutively. He sought permission to appeal, arguing that the sentencing judge had failed to properly apply the totality principle, that the overall sentence for multiple offences should be just and proportionate. Chief Justice Anthony Dudley rejected the argument, finding that the judge had properly considered the totality of the offending. He said the offences against the 2 victims amounted to distinct criminal conduct. The court ruled that the 7-year sentence was neither wrong in principle nor manifestly excessive and refused permission to appeal. Larage also challenged a 10-year sexual offences prevention order, arguing it was excessive because he had been assessed as being at low risk of reoffending. The court rejected that argument, finding no arguable basis that the order was wrong in principle or manifestly excessive. Either party has 7 days to notify the registrar if they wish to pursue the matter further.
And if you've been the victim of abuse, you can contact the RGP on 200 72500 or report online. An Argentinian national has been found not guilty of attempted rape following a trial at the Supreme Court. 33-year-old Nahul Matias Sendin Saldana had been accused of taking a 16-year-old girl into a disabled bathroom and attempting to coerce her into giving him oral sex in April of last year. After over 4 hours of deliberations, the jury returned a verdict of not guilty. You're watching GBC News. Still to come, we hear from some of this year's Mrs. Gibraltar contestants who's been nominated for this year's Cultural Awards, and we look ahead to one of the most striking astronomical events in decades, tomorrow's partial eclipse. We'll be back in a few minutes. Welcome back. Now, this Friday, 7 contestants will take to the stage at the Alameda Open Air Theatre, hoping to be crowned this year's Mrs. Gibraltar. The 7 hopefuls were on Gibraltar today, telling Kellyanne Borge about their reasons for taking part in the show. Pageant director Mark Andrades emphasized how much an event like this gives back to the community, as well as giving a big confidence boost to those involved.
Well, this is the old age argument about pageants and what they stand for nowadays. And actually, it's very important because pageants not only raises the candidates' self-esteem and confidence, you know, it's also a part of the culture. You promote the charities, you promote Gibraltar itself. Like, for example, all our events are locally based and everything is to do with Gibraltar. So we promote that side. And then on top of that, these ladies do get on the stage knowing they're going to be judged by hundreds of people. And it takes a lot of courage and a lot of, you know, un poquito, ¿no? de esfuerzo y de coraje to get up there. So all that gives them the confidence. And above all, it's to bring them back to who they are. Because as mothers and wives and all that, they forget who they are. Si no me equivoco, ¿no? Había venido para atrás lo que eran ustedes and who you are as a female.
As a mother, you don't find time for yourself, and this has given us a lot of time for ourselves and to mix with new people, find new friends, and it's been brilliant. It gives you a part of you which you lose on the way.
Well, to me, it was my year because 20 years ago, it was my year to enter the Mrs. Gibraltar and I was pregnant with my daughter. So
with Miss Gibraltar,
20 years down the lane, I'm here.
Para mejorarme a mí misma y ser más fuerte y dejar un ejemplo para más mujeres que lo hagan.
I think many people would like to join, but it's the fear that they don't want to because this is Gibraltar, it's very small, and people know everyone.
I've always been backstage. I've been a hairdresser, so I've been 16 years backstage, and I said I need to be in stage.
This is your year, no?
Yes, this is my year.
Me was because I've signed up previously twice before. I fell pregnant with my kids, then there was a lot of medical reasons in between, but this time I thought, you know what, I did lose my confidence, and now when I stand in the mirror I say, I am me again. I found myself finally.
And I joined because I enjoyed the first experience so much. I had to do it again. I absolutely love it. It's amazing. Yeah.
To all of them. Now, nominees for this year's Cultural Awards have been announced, with voting lines opening next month. The awards recognise potential, ability, talent and achievements in Gibraltar's arts and culture. Cultural Services CEO Seamus Byrne told Kellyanne Borge about some of the changes over the last few years.
In the past, we've combined junior and youth categories because there have been insufficient entries or nominations, and then we've been given as well a Special Achievements Awards or the Rising Star Awards. But this year we are back to what has been done from the very beginning. We have the 4 categories, which are the junior 15 and under, youth 60 to 25, seniors over 25, and then we also have the best educational project, which is one of my preferred options as well because of categories as well, because of the amount of work and that goes into that category. It goes beyond cultural activity, but also in giving an education to many people who take part in those projects. Your very own Lucinda Snape, she's done an amazing podcast called Born on the Rock, which is a unique cultural archive documenting the birth stories of various families across Gibraltar. Then we have an amazing project which was done by the Gibraltar Horticultural Society and the Gibraltar Sustainable Group called Urban Oasis, which converted many patios and terraces, etc., into green areas. We have Palabras al Vientos by Alex Mascareñas, documenting the collection of Manolo Mascareñas between 46 and 72. Most importantly, the radio program that featured in Radio Gibraltar in 65. And then an amazing, to finish off, an amazing creative environmental project, which was done by St. Anne's Upper Primary School together with the Nautilus Project.
The MSC Virtuosa has paid an inaugural call to The Rock. The cruise liner brought in around 6,000 passengers with approximately 1,700 crew members. The visit was marked by the traditional exchange of plaques on board. The call coincided with one of the Main Street entertainment days organized by the Tourist Board, aimed at encouraging visitors to spend more time in the town centre. Tourism Minister Christian Santos says he looks forward to her return visit later this month and again in September. Now, all eyes will be on the Bay of Gibraltar tomorrow as we experience a partial solar eclipse just before sunset. Dubbed one of the most striking astronomical events visible to the rock in decades, both the Astronomical Society and the GHA are advising those who intend to watch it to do so safely with Eclipse glasses. It's a rare event, and Gibraltar will be one of the best places to see it. This phenomenon will be a 93% partial eclipse, which means the moon will obscure almost the entire solar disk just before sunset. This will leave only a narrow crescent of sunlight, producing noticeably subdued daylight across Gibraltar. As it takes place on the northwest sky, the best places to see it will be elevated terraces and rooftops offering clear views across the Bay of Gibraltar, Westview Park, Queensway Promenade, Little Bay and Camp Bay, which is where GBC will be tomorrow live. The president of the Gibraltar Astronomical Society, William Recaño, is advising the public against looking directly at the sun without proper protection. Advice also seconded by the GHA, who say this can cause serious and permanent eye damage known as solar retinopathy. Those who want to watch the eclipse are advised to use certified ISO 12312-2 solar eclipse glasses, which are available locally. So can you watch the eclipse through your phone screen? It is generally safer than looking directly at the sun, but photographing the eclipse without proper filters can still damage camera sensors. It is also not advisable to use binoculars or telescopes without certified solar filters attached to the front of the equipment. Children can also observe the eclipse, but should always be supervised and wear properly fitted eclipse glasses throughout the viewing. Next year, Gibraltar will be at the epicenter of a total solar eclipse on the 2nd of August, which will garner huge international attention. But for now, GBC News will bring you live coverage of tomorrow's partial eclipse. And in this week's lottery draw, the first prize of £100,000 went to ticket number 12113. The second prize of £10,000 went to ticket number 01117. And £5,000 went to the owner of ticket number 12382. Congratulations to all the winners. And that's all from the GBC News team for now. Don't forget you can always catch up on our website and our socials as well. Have a good evening.